Namaste, and welcome to Getting Intimate with Intimacy, a space for deep exploration of the mind, body, and soul connection. I'm Jamie London Wollberg, he, they pronouns.
I'm Jayne, she, her, they pronouns.
Getting Intimate with Intimacy will cover consistent multimedia content spanning all forms of intimacy, from sexual to intellectual and everything in between. Our content is created for beings, bodies, and abilities 18 and up.
Our content can be enjoyed on YouTube as well as Insight Timer and OnlyFans. The links will be in the description for our live streams. We're really looking forward to experiencing the infinite layers of intimacy with all of you. And remember,
Intimacy starts within.
Namaste, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Getting Intimate with Intimacy, episode 33. What is generational trauma's impact on intimacy? Part 3, which is our integration episode. Welcome home. How are you doing, KJ?
Doing all right.
I'm so grateful to hear that, and I'm so grateful to be here. For those who are not caught up because you haven't watched the last 2 episodes, we have been talking about generational trauma and the impact that it's had on intimacy. And I'm going to give you a little recap on 3 of the key things that we discussed. We definitely encourage you to go back and watch those other episodes because these were powerful. And you may notice that Raven is not with us. She has decided to flourish within her projects, and we celebrate her. We're so grateful for the time that we had with her, and she had some really powerful things to say within the prior 2 episodes. So these will be factored in with that as well. So our recaps, we talked about how generational trauma impacts us, how it can keep us stuck in patterns that influence our relationships and how we see ourselves. We discussed the healing process, how self-love and community support are essential, and that healing is a lifelong journey, not something that needs to be rushed. And we highlighted the opportunity for growth, how we can use generational trauma as a way to empower ourselves and others by embracing our unique healing paths. And today we're going to close any gaps, bring up anything that's come up that we feel called to, and then we are going to support you as well as ourselves in the integration of all of this that we're processing together by sharing our gifts. And we welcome you to be here in a receiving space. So I wonder, Jayne, what has come up for you around generational trauma in the last 2 weeks that we have not been live?
Plenty, let's just say, and I won't dive into everything now because I know this is a recap basically. But I do find it interesting and fun how it tends to be, we pick a topic and then that shows up in our lives, right? For that week, for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks. And that's a good sign of alignment, right? Okay, universe, like here we are, we're doing the things and we're talking about the things. And I just think it's such a pertinent theme for discussion right now in the world. And it's definitely, I think I might have touched on in the past, that I recently had the opportunity to travel back home after almost 3 years. And that was quite an undertaking. It was like a physically short time, 4 days there and back. And it was a lot between families, friends, acquaintances, interactions, that turned out differently than I thought. But the realization of coming home as I continued to process everything that was stirred up, it was a great checkpoint for me because although things are different, a big part of that is because I have changed and I regret nothing about that. I regret nothing about my growth and my transformation and my healing journey that I've been on, right? And we talk all the time about alignment and vibration. So if those individuals are no longer at the same frequency, it is what it is, right? As far as like acquaintances, my family, that's a whole nother ongoing thing as we're literally talking about generational trauma. And I've also been reaffirming to myself the part that you said about there's nothing to rush. There's not a specific timeline, right? You don't have to heal XYZ by September of 2025. And so I have been doing a lot of that, utilizing the role of the observer, right? Noticing, talking about these patterns that we've been discussing, right? I'm seeing these things come up, and then I'm seeing it reflected in other relationships and interactions that are not my family. But it's still, you can tell when it's a generational pattern sometimes, right? So it's definitely been an ongoing topic and journey for me. Like I said, I know for me personally, it's very pertinent right now because I'm also working on my chosen family, right? So we've talked about all this generational trauma and the fact that we can use it in an alchemizing sense, right? To take the pain and the awareness of the pain and the awareness of the patterns and transform or alchemize that into power, into love, into making new and better choices, right? As we learn and grow, that we want to create different scenarios and options for the next generations. And so for me, it's just been, it's been like another refocusing on me, what do I want? Who do I want to be? Okay, with all of that stuff that I'm aware of, I'm not going to let it hold me back. I'm not going to let it weigh me down forever. I'm going to have feelings. There's going to be ups and downs in the process of working through it. And, we get to decide, I get to decide how I desire to move forward, how I want to shape my future, what I want to experience, right? What I want my children to experience in the future. And those that are dear to me, other people's kiddos, right? Like all the children are our future. So that's definitely been a big theme in my consciousness. I feel like there's something else I was going to say, but it's eluding me. But if it comes back, I will let you know.
It's powerful.
For you.
Thank you for sharing. And I like that you brought back up the 4 days because number one, I forgot how fast that trip was. Because after with everything that you've shared live and otherwise, it was certainly a lot. And it also has me reflecting on 4, right? The 4 being foundation, the 4 being of directions, right? The compass, and how much generational trauma really does drive a lot of our behavior for a really long time until we are aware of it and we are, we've loved through the other side of it and we're navigating those things and we reclaim our power and we reclaim our autonomy. And I really resonate with these patterns, right? Because that's what everything ultimately is, right? We're all frequency, and also all of these different things that are happening, everything from zeros and ones to patterns in our way of thinking, in our behaviors, our habits. Humans are very habitual, as are much of the creatures on our planet, if not all of them, have some element of cycle and pattern. And part of it helps our consciousness to make sense of things. And it allows for us to grow and expand because we can see this beginning and this end. And what I think is powerful about your share is I see how much you've seen the within, the in between of all of that, and the fluctuation, as you mentioned, is so key. I definitely feel that I had some very pleasantly unanticipated breakthroughs around generational traumas and things that were holding me back since our last episode. And the moment of me realizing this is this moment. It's not that the breakthrough is happening in this moment, but it's me realizing that all of this happened since our last episode. that sometimes I feel compelled to say a session, because sometimes these do feel like collective sessions. Really, the biggest one that I want to share, because in a way, I am also very inspired by, like, my observer of myself, right? My higher self is like very inspired by the fact that I got there, and I got there from inspiration of someone who is very dear to both of us. And the breakthrough that I had was around generational traumas around money and money blocks and expectations and guilt and all of these scarcity mindset and things around money that were tapped in with my parents. And the journey that I've had with my parents in being the soul that decided, yep, I've totally got all of this. I'm going to clear them all on both sides. It, like, has had this whole thing of really having this feeling of it being held over me for a long time. This is no longer the case, even prior to this like immediate breakthrough. We've broken up the patterns that we had before of this feeling like I would feel guilty, they would feel responsible, they would feel like I wasn't grateful, to them, and sort of all of these kinds of pressures. And then they would hold things over me from resentment. And then I would resent them for holding over me with resentment. And this awful toxic cycle continued. And then one day, somehow, with lots of effort, but it sort of seems like almost overnight, even though it absolutely wasn't, things started to change. And I went into observer mode, and I realized, whoa, like, I don't feel like they're doing that anymore. Every conversation is no longer about how much we've supported you, how much this, how much we gave you, all this stuff, based around the circumstances that I've had. If you're watching this for your first time, then you probably don't know that I've had a really big health journey. And I've had the benefit and the privilege of my parents being able to and choosing to support me within that. And so the huge breakthrough that I had through the inspiration of a share of a mutual confidant of myself and Katie Jayne is that I realized that I was at a layer of gratitude that was not superficial and not super surface level, but like not as deep as I thought that I could really go. And so it was really just sort of like, I am grateful for the material aspect of all of this, but I was still feeling unsafe. I was still feeling somehow not provided for, even though there was a huge part of my brain that was like, that you're provided for because like your rent is paid, right? And like all these kinds of things. But what ended up happening through this inspirational share was that I found this deeper layer of gratitude that no longer had anything to do with any of the patterns or any of the other stuff that was going on with us, and was purely me feeling grateful for how safe and secure I felt. And it was deeply emotional, and it was deeply profound. And what happened was I felt this level of peace and provided by of the universe. And I literally, because this person that inspired me is someone that I constantly say is like designed, for their child. And I realized that my parents are designed for me, and that I'm designed for them, and all of the circumstances that come with this. And so instead of feeling like it was just my parents providing for me, I started to feel this gratitude and safety of the universe, of the one, of the collective. And it's frankly not something that I can fully put words to because of how energetic and transformational it was. What I want to close out with this thought is I got to tell my parents in person that I had this breakthrough a couple of days ago. And it was very powerful because they were listening physically next to me, but like listening to me sharing this to them, but like really to my sister. And it was on the first night of Rosh Hashanah, which Shana Tova, by the way, to anybody who's listening to this at whatever time, and it happens to be Rosh Hashanah. That's the Jewish New Year, for those who don't know, and it's going to be it's an 8-year, so of wealth and abundance and the infinite connection of all things. And so it felt so profound to be in this energy on this day at this time, and really coming into this huge chapter, closing and opening with my parents around wealth and abundance and the generational trauma. And along with some other things that I had shared, my mom grabbed my hand and she looked at me and she said, "I'm really happy for you." And it was so emotional and so powerful. And I was just like, that is the moment and the feeling that I want to remember really forever. But like any time that I'm navigating any sort of generational trauma, or anytime I'm irritated with my parents, or I feel us slipping, into a thing which can happen, like I want to remember that they have provided for me, that I do feel safe and protected, even in those moments in the outside world or whatever the case may be. And the result has been feeling more secure as an anxious, insecure attachment style person who's healing that design. Which really goes full circle to a conversation I had with Jayne like 2 weeks ago. So it's like part of her smile might be also remembering that conversation. So it's really
powerful. Yeah. That's amazing. That's so amazing, honestly, to have that, like you said, the blessing to have that breakthrough with your family and to be witnessed by them. Truly, that's incredible. And I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I also similarly have been, refocusing on the gratitude. And I think that's the opportunity, right? The invitation when we are in the thick of it, as they say, when we're feeling all these feelings, when we're like, oh, this is a lot, right? And you're feeling the intensity, because the last couple of weeks have been intensity for all of us, right? So if you're feeling it and you think you're feeling a little crazy, it's not you, honey. There's lots going on. Like Jamie said, this is a very powerful time of shifting. We just, closed out the eclipse portal and all of the things. And, but gratitude is so powerful also. And I even found myself being grateful for gratitude and realizing, thinking back at how life-changing it has been. The practice of gratitude, the shifting my mindset. And it's okay that we have to shift or realign multiple times, because we were just talking about this. Life can be like a roller coaster. There's going to be ups and downs. And we always get to pick ourselves back up and say, no, what I want to focus on is gratitude. And gratitude has been an incredibly powerful tool, because it's one of those easy baby steps. And the more you do it, the more, the happier you tend to be, but also it builds, right? That's something that keeps going and builds in a good way for me. And that's been my experience, is like looking back and realizing the different times in my life when I chose gratitude, like very consciously, even though it was real dark, right? When we focus on what we do have and what is sustaining us, like you said, like that's incredibly powerful. And it can be a little reality check sometimes, right? To be like, wow, I have so much to be grateful, when I know maybe other people are not so fortunate, right? So that in itself, definitely a very, very grounding tool when you're doing this kind of healing work, for sure.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your acknowledgement. And yes, I definitely agree. There are so many tools, and gratitude is one that costs nothing, and it does not, cause harm to anyone, and it's something that's deeply personal. It's something that can be done very quickly. It's something that it's pretty challenging to create excuses to not go into that space, or at least try.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, go for it.
So, okay, come on, brain. I was like, wait, I got it. Oh, I was going to say, I have recently been having conversations with my passengers, my Lyft passengers, about ancestors and about honoring our ancestors. And the things that come up when I talk about my father, for instance, are the good things, the things that I loved, the good qualities, the things that I inherited, that I appreciate from both of them. And that's been also, just since that trip, right, of realizing when I, a few years back, I would get annoyed when I would see myself as my family. Like I would see their traits, facial expressions, the hand gesture, whatever. If I would do something, then I'm like, oh my God, that's like my brother. Or, oh my goodness, that's like my mother, right? It doesn't hold that charge anymore. Like, okay, yeah, I am like my mother. I tell stories like my mom. That's something that my fiance pointed out after he met my mom. And we came home and he goes, well, now I know where you get your storytelling, like the way you tell stories exactly the same way, because we sat and had coffee and we hung out for a little bit. So, and I just laughed. I said, you know what? I can see that. It totally makes sense. And that's something that I have grown into also, just like over the last year, even of seeing those positives, right? And focusing. That's what's really powerful, is when you focus on gratitude, then you're not thinking about all the negative stuff, right? And it's also a good way to continue to let go of the past, right? That's something that most humans struggle with. Almost all of us. Life happens, things happen that are impactful. And how and when do we choose to move forward and to release? And so gratitude has also been a good tool for releasing the past and just refocusing on the positives.
Absolutely. Beautifully put. And I'm really, really proud of you, because I remember how much that used to charge you up. And for the record, understandably, right? Because these things can remind us of the pain, and then the reality is, as you said about your dad, right? When people transition and they're no longer there, and that energy is not held up, we're not in a resentful space usually. We're in a gratitude space, or and grief, because if anything, the regret is, well, why couldn't I get there sooner to have that time? And the reality is, regretting does not actually make that feel any better. I get that from things with my grandmother, and how she initially had reacted with my transition and all the things unfolded. And now all I think about is the gratitude for the fact that, even though there was that 5-year period of time that was a total mess between us, that I found my way to get over it, even if it felt like I pushed myself to get over it before I was ready. And something that I think is really important to think about when it comes to generational trauma and releasing all of any trauma or anything of the past, as you were speaking to, is recognizing that even when you feel ready, there's a part of you that might not feel ready, because it's going to feel uncomfortable. But you have the opportunity to look at that and say, well, just because I feel uncomfortable doesn't mean that I'm not ready. And just because I don't feel fully ready doesn't mean that I'm not ready to go forward. And it is this little bit of this, seesaw balancing act before you find that sweet spot where then one day you wake up and it just feels better. And that moment is worth everything. But it's really, most of the time you're spent in the journey getting to that moment. And so that moment is really that gratitude of all the moments and the journey that you had. And so I'm really, really proud of you. And I'm proud of everyone who's watching or listening to this who has let go of something huge around generational trauma or otherwise, because it's not always easy. And it's something that, like you were speaking to kind of almost with gratitude, like the more practice, it's like a muscle, right? And it gets imprinted within you and your way of being. And so whatever was the toughest one that you navigated, it's never going to be as tough as that toughest first one.
And we're still here. We have survived every hard day.
Yes, we have.
We're doing it.
Yes, we have. So I think this is a beautiful time, unless you feel there's more you want to share, for us to start our integration process within providing of service. Does that feel good for you?
Sounds good.
Would you like to go first? What are you planning on bringing to the table today?
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to do some oracle cards. There's 2 decks I think I want to pull from. So I'm going to take a minute. I'll put myself on mute while I shuffle. And if some harmonic channeling comes through, then that'll come through.
Can I request that you put your sound on, because I like hearing the shuffling?
Sure. And I'm
anyone else who doesn't like it, you can mute it.
That's fair. ASMR for some people.
Yes.
2 of my dear Rebecca Campbell book decks. This is the Ancient Stones, which are all gorgeous, and then the Work Your Light Oracle. Yes. All right. Okay. In that case, do we need to know to help integrate the conversation of generational trauma's impact on intimacy with yourself and others? I just think a really powerful theme lately, it's called flipped out, and it definitely coincides with generational trauma, is like sharing your voice, right? Our authentic truth. And just because that's the medicine that the world needs. That's the medicine, that's part of the medicine of even embracing this concept of generational trauma, is to say, okay, I see this happened, we experienced this, let's not do that again, right? So therefore, I choose to evolve. I choose to make these different choices and to take the gratitude and the lessons, right? Okay, so 2 have come out. Oh, 1 more. Yes, these all definitely align. Let's see if 1 or 2 cards in the other deck. That's a very cool. The Ancient Stones deck is one of my newest decks, and me personally, as a reader, I do not like look at all the cards immediately. Like, oh, no, I shuffle them, I'll look at a couple, and then we just go for it and see what comes up. So the first card that popped out is one I have not seen. It says Dancing with Stones, movement, teamwork, partnership. Is that it? Are we just using the 1 deck today? I guess so. All right. So the first card, I'm going to do my best here with the lighting is not.
Here, I'll remove. Nope, that's the wrong
Other
one.
So let's see, fix the lighting a little bit. Anyways, there are 2 figures dancing around like a stone formation, circles, stone circle. There's light up here, and on the card it says what I just said: Dancing with Stones. One of the best-known stone circles in Scotland is the Callanish Stones on the Isle of Lewis, erected 5,000 years ago. While the purpose of this cross-shaped site has been lost to time, it's believed that it may have been used for celestial rituals. Every 18.6 years, the moon dips particularly low over hills to the south, and its light is channeled to the stones in an otherworldly display, almost as if heaven is dancing with the earth. That's amazing. The message of this card is to appreciate the steady pillars of union, partnership, and teamwork. It invites us to not stay fixed in our views or planning and instead to dance with life itself. Anyone who's danced in a group knows there's such power in collective movement. However, in order to access it, the group needs to work together. How are you being called to listen more to other people? What ways are you being called to flow with what is? How can you collaborate more effectively with others and work together as a team? This could be with your colleagues, friends, or your family at home. When we soften our individual will and our ideas about how things should be and instead see ourselves as part of a beloved group, what we then create can be multiplied. And when we work together for a common purpose, it's that much sweeter when we achieve it. Celebration is more fun, and each moment of the journey is too. Soul inquiry. How are you being called to work better with others or appreciate those around you a little more? And then to follow that one, we have boundary stones. Really beautiful card as well. And on the card it says negotiations, contracts, communication. There's nothing more physical and permanent than stone. Stones can define a space clearly. They separate and set the mark, blocking out trespassers. Clear communicators, stones leave little up in the air to question. Sometimes we can feel nervous about setting firm boundaries, but creating this type of clear limit or rule makes all parties feel safer and prevents anxiety, questioning, and worry. The Boundary Stones card is one of clear communication. It invites us to see the importance of defining what we want and what we truly mean. Whether it's being courageous and frank in your personal relationships or bringing more clarity and transparency to your professional agreements, this card invites you to be fair and clear so that what you intend to communicate and manifest is done so impeccably. Perhaps this card is prompting you to take the time to clarify what's important to you, to voice what you truly want. Maybe you're being called to work out the specifics of a business arrangement or contract that will bring you what you intend to create. Or maybe there's an important discussion to be had in a relationship where you're being called to express your feelings or needs and let the other person do the same. Some people can misinterpret clear communication and boundary setting as harsh or unloving behavior. However, it can in fact be a container of safety. But when both parties understand the terrain, they each know where they stand and can relax and trust the container even more. We're just talking about having that sense of safety is so important. The soul inquiry for this card says, what important discussion are you being called to have? How can you be clearer about it? I'll just go ahead and say that was definitely for me. Just had a very important conversation last night. So that resonates. And this has also been a theme. I've been talking with people about boundaries, right? About the fact that it can be hard and uncomfortable, but ultimately you are letting others know how to treat you, right? And that definitely has a lot to do when we're talking about generational trauma. So if we are dealing with or desiring to be around and deal with, interact with folks that are maybe the perpetrators or part of the generational patterns that we don't like, right? Then what are our boundaries? And we get to have boundaries. You get to say, this is what I am okay with and not okay with in whatever, situation that you're dealing with. And it exactly the container of safety. I love that because that's literally what they're for, having those pillars for yourself of, I know where I stand and these are my limits. And you can do that from a loving place and be strong and firm about it. This is another card that I have not seen, but it makes total sense. And it says the cave. It's a very beautiful, he's just wrapped in like a soft cloth, it looks like, in this cave with soft lighting. And it says retreat, time out, self-care, slow down. Caves have been used as spaces of contemplation and introspection throughout human history. They're seen as a symbol for connecting with the heart. Through retreating to the cave and being in solitude, the initiate can reconnect with their truest self. Through removing themselves from the business of their everyday life, they can find their truest path. Through removing themselves from the noise around them, they can hear their truest inner voice. When we aren't resourced energetically, we can find ourselves getting triggered easily and causing conflict or uneasiness within or around us. The cave card is an invitation to take a moment away from the noise and monotony of your everyday life, to slow down and reconnect with yourself and the wisdom within. It's believed that in times past, the holy ones and mystics would spend their days meditating in caves, although in our modern world, that's rarely possible. Perhaps in this lifetime, we're not meant to stay in the cave. However, it's important to find ways to remove ourselves from the hustle and bustle every now and then. If we give ourselves windows of retreat, we'll likely find it easier to stay connected to the wise one within. If we practice self-care, we may find it easier to care for others. Soul inquiry. How can you create some space in your life to slow down, reflect, and go inward? Can you find just a little window of quiet so that you can regulate and resource yourself and truly tune in? I love that. I love this very, very much. So it's about remembering to nurture yourself through this process, right? And that self-care and boundaries are self-love. And leaning into partnership and teamwork when you can, right? That is a way to amplify if you have dreams and goals or a message you want to get out. Working together is a great way to do that. And being open to that surrender, right? Surrendering to the flow of life, being able to dance with the moving currents and be okay when the winds change, while maintaining those boundaries and making that very important time for self-care. Like, that's literally been on my mind too. I spend much more of an intentional focus, I will say, like these last couple of weeks, because I was realizing for myself as I dropped into my heart, like, wow, Katie, oh my goodness, we are processing a lot of emotions, and my body is asking for more rest. So I'm going to honor that. I'm going to take a day off work if I need to. I'm going to take an Epsom salt bath, or 2 if you need to. Like, there's no rules or limits, right? When you're talking about doing what feels good for you and your body in the moment. And that's actually a very, very important part of integration. If we're talking about healing, we're talking about bringing all of this stuff to the surface. That's tumultuous, right? We're going to be going through it, as they say. And that is, you have to feel it to heal it. And we get to move through that, and we get to give ourselves grace and like self-care and self-love during that time as well. And as well as like with the cave, I mean, our world is fast-paced these days, right? But planning that, put it in your calendar if you need to. I love calendars. I love reminders. I'm neurospicy. And if I don't put reminders in my phone for important things, sometimes I forget. So that is just the encouragement, is to continue to, give yourself that grace as you go within, as we're doing this deep work, as you're saying, okay, I see how the role of the observer is happening here. And like, now I have 10 emotions about it. So then take the downtime that you need to make sure that you are well resourced. And that's what they're speaking to. If you're not well resourced, you can't serve others either, right? And if you feel like your mission here is to serve, to be of service, to help others, to guide, you have to be good first. I love this conversation. I appreciate anybody and everybody that has listened, and we'd love to hear any comments so we can continue to interact.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, for me, that was spot on, but I like all of that was very spot on to everything that we've been talking about and sharing. And I have no doubt that people will resonate with that beautiful reading. Thank you so much for that. And thank you, Rebecca, for channeling some incredible messages that are so resonant. It was also very exciting to see that cave card have I can't see the cards perfectly, but like it looks like a potentially more masculine presentation.
Yeah, he has facial hair.
Yeah, which is very unusual for her cards. So that was And that really resonated. So that's really amazing.
Yeah.
I am going to bring forth some Reiki to help us to soothe our hearts, to embrace what it is in our journey, where we have been, where we're going, and helping to create clarity and really release and integrate anything that is needed to be released around generational traumas, anything that's blocking you that needs to be released in order for you to be open to this, as well as to find peace and forgiveness within yourself, for yourself and others, and processing through whatever has come up. I am going to play some music, which I'm hoping when I click on this, it's the right one. It is not. I can't. They've made it sort of like they did an update in StreamYard, and like everything is now condensed, so you can't really see all of the text. So I have to be patient with me as I try to. I'm like, where did it go? Okay, here it is. This is what it's right now. So I invite you to take some slow deep breaths. You can receive this Reiki by saying, I choose to receive this Reiki for my highest good and for the highest good. And just let all Slowly bring yourselves back, whole and complete in the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, etheric body. I trust that you received whatever it is that you needed to from this beautiful universal life force energy. And I look forward to hearing about your experience and anything that came up for you. How are you feeling, Katie Jayne?
Oh, that was really beautiful. And for me, I really dropped into my heart space and gratitude. Gratitude can be so profound. Like, that's what we've been saying. And I just want to reiterate that. I was just feeling so much gratitude. Gratitude for Reiki, for you, for this conversation, for the platform, and for everybody who is listening or watching that is walking their individual healing path and continuing in the face of chaos and darkness to choose love, compassion, and kindness, which, as you said, are free. I'm so grateful.
Thank you for sharing. I love that you went to gratitude. And I know that those who receive this message will feel the desire, the inspiration to take it on. And I've been loving this conversation as well. And we look forward to continuing very soon. We are going to take some time to recalibrate. Katie, Jayne, and myself both have some personal moves to make, metaphorically and otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And we will be coming back, and we will be informing you of when we are coming back. Please remember that this is an amazing time to go back through our entire Rolodex of 33 episodes now. That is almost 33 hours of incredible content that's going to help you become more intimate with yourself and therefore with those around you. And we can't wait to continue to get intimate with you and getting intimate with intimacy in the very near future. We may keep the same day and time, we may not. The best way to know what is going on is to click follow, subscribe, to click that notification bell, and make sure that wherever you are tuning into, you are prepared, because we will be back ASAP. We are so excited about all of the different ideas and ways that we are going to support and serve and transform our beautiful podcast going forward. So we will see you in later this year or possibly 2026. Either way, we will definitely be with you very soon. And remember, intimacy
starts
with it.
with it.
Namaste, and be well, everyone.